My name is Joshua Vance. I'm 30 years old, and tonight, I watched my own brother implode because he forgot who was actually paying for his lifestyle. Before I tell you how I turned a family celebration into a police matter, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are and where are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel. It was 45 degrees in Chicago, the kind of damp cold that seeps right through a cheap jacket. I was standing on the sidewalk in front of L'Orangerie, one of those French restaurants where the menu doesn't have prices and the waiters judge you by your watch. I could see the warm, golden glow spilling out onto the pavement, the sound of crystal glasses clinking, and low, expensive laughter floating through the air. I wasn't just there for dinner. I was there for a family reunion. More specifically, a celebration for my older brother, Caleb. He had supposedly just landed a massive promotion. My mother had called me 3 times that week, her voice shrill with excitement, reminding me not to be late, not to wear those rags you usually wear, and to show some respect for my brother's achievement. I walked up the stone steps, reaching for the heavy oak handle of the entrance. The door swung open before I touched it. But it wasn't a doorman. It was Caleb. He looked like $1 million. Literally. He was wearing a bespoke navy suit that fit him perfectly, a silk tie that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, and on his wrist, glinting under the entryway lights, was a vintage Rolex Submariner. My Rolex. Well, the one I had bought him for his birthday last year because he'd cried about needing to look the part to get ahead in his career. He stepped out, blocking the entrance with his shoulder. He didn't smile. He looked at me the way you look at a stray dog that's wandered onto your porch. He scanned my outfit. A simple gray hoodie under a denim jacket, dark jeans, and sneakers. Clean but definitely not black tie. "What do you think you're doing, Josh?" he asked, his voice low but dripping with venom. "I'm coming to dinner," I said, confused. "Mom said 7 p.m. I'm 5 minutes early." Caleb laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was a sharp, barking noise. He took a half-step forward, forcing me to step back down onto the first stair. He was physically pushing me out of the space. "Look inside," he said, gesturing vaguely behind him with his head. "Look at the caliber of people in there. We have Mr. Sterling from the Sterling Group. We have investors. We have Elena's parents. This isn't a charity kitchen, Josh. This is a celebration for successful family members only." My stomach dropped. "Successful? Caleb, I'm your brother. Mom invited me." "Mom invited you because she feels sorry for you," Caleb sneered. He leaned in closer, and I could smell the expensive scotch on his breath mixed with heavy cologne. "She thinks if you hang around success, maybe some of it will rub off on you. But tonight is important. I'm closing a deal with Sterling. I can't have my dropout little brother sitting there in a hoodie looking like he's about to ask for a loan. You're an embarrassment." I felt the heat rise up my neck. "I didn't ask for a loan, Caleb. I never have. Your existence is a request for a handout," he spat. "Go home. Order a pizza. Do whatever it is you do in that tiny apartment of yours. Just don't ruin this for me." "Caleb," I said, my voice hardening, "you really don't want to do this." He rolled his eyes. "Oh, save the tough guy act. What are you going to do? Tell Mom?" She agreed with me, "Josh. We talked about it 10 minutes ago." She said, "If Joshua isn't dressed appropriately, maybe it's better he doesn't come in. You're out. Goodbye." He grabbed the heavy brass handle of the door. "Wait," I said. "How are you paying for this?" He paused, a smirk curling his lip. He tapped his chest pocket. "Corporate account, little brother. Something you wouldn't know anything about. Perks of the job." "Right," I said. "The promotion." "Exactly. Now get lost." He slammed the heavy door in my face. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the cold street. I stood there for a moment, staring at the wood grain, feeling the humiliation wash over me. I could see through the side window. I saw him walk back to the table. I saw my mother look up, ask him a question, and then nod when he answered. She didn't look towards the door. She didn't look worried. She took a sip of her wine and smiled at Caleb. They had erased me. Just like that, I turned around and walked across the street to a small, dimly lit cafe. I sat down by the window where I had a perfect view of the restaurant's entrance. I ordered a black coffee. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from a rage so cold it felt like ice in my veins. I pulled out my phone. Caleb said he was using a corporate account. I knew that was a lie. Caleb didn't have a corporate card. His credit score was in the double digits. He had maxed out every card he owned trying to keep up appearances with his fiancée, Elena, and his rich friends. I opened my banking app. I scrolled past my savings, past my investment portfolios, down to the credit card section. Specifically, the American Express Black Card account. There it was. Pending transaction. L'Orangerie, hold/deposit. $5,000. He wasn't using a corporate card. He was using the supplementary card I had given him 6 months ago. The card that was supposed to be for life or death emergencies only. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the transaction. Successful family members only, he had said. You're an embarrassment. I took a deep breath. The anger in my chest settled into something heavy and solid. Plan. I tapped the Card Services tab. Option. Report lost or stolen. Reason. Stolen. Action. Freeze card immediately and decline all future transactions. A warning box popped up. Are you sure? This will immediately decline any active transactions and alert authorities if attempted use continues. I looked across the street. Through the window of the restaurant, I could see Caleb raising a glass of champagne, laughing at something the CEO, Mr. Sterling, was saying. He looked like a king holding court. He had no idea the guillotine was already falling. I pressed confirm. The app loaded for a second, a little spinning wheel of doom, and then a green checkmark appeared. Card frozen. I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, but it tasted better than the finest wine Caleb was drinking right now. I checked the time. It was 7:15 p.m. They hadn't even ordered the main courses yet. I settled into my chair. I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted to watch the show. While we wait for the chaos to start across the street, you need to understand how we got here. You might be wondering, why did you give a guy who treats you like dirt a credit card with a $50,000 limit? That's a fair question. To answer it, you have to understand the dynamic of the Vance family. Growing up, there were two narratives. Caleb was the golden child. He was the star quarterback, the prom king, the one who went to a prestigious business school to get his MBA. He was loud, charismatic, and looked great in a suit. My parents, specifically my mother, treated him like he was the second coming of Christ. Every minor achievement was a parade. Then there was me, Joshua, the quiet one, the one who spent his weekends coding on a second-hand laptop instead of playing football, the one who dropped out of college after 3 semesters because I was wasting my time. To my parents, dropping out was the ultimate sin. It didn't matter that I dropped out because I had already developed a piece of software that I sold for mid-6 figures. I never told them that part. Why? Because the first time I tried to talk to them about my coding, my dad sighed and said, Joshua, stop playing video games and be more like Caleb. He's building a future. So I stopped talking. I moved out, rented a modest apartment, and kept building. Over the last decade, I transitioned from simple software sales to angel investing. I own stakes in 3 major tech startups in Chicago. My net worth is something my father couldn't even count to without getting a headache. But I kept it quiet. I drove a Honda. I wore jeans. I didn't want them to love my money. I wanted them to respect me. Spoiler alert, they didn't. 6 months ago, the cracks in Caleb's perfect life started to show. He showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., banging on the door. He looked like a wreck, eyes bloodshot, tie undone, sweating. I'm in trouble, Josh, he had said, pacing around my small living room. Deep trouble. He had gambled, not just at casinos but on high-risk crypto schemes and sure-thing investments that turned out to be scams. He owed money, a lot of it, and he had raided his fiancée Elena's savings to pay some of it off. But she didn't know yet. If she found out, the wedding was off. If his company found out he was broke, his security clearance for his marketing job was gone. I need a loan, he begged. Just $20,000. I'll pay you back in 2 months. I have a bonus coming. I knew he was lying about the bonus. I knew he was drowning, but he was my big brother. I remembered the times when we were kids, before the ego took over, when he would actually defend me from bullies. I won't give you cash, I told him, because you'll just gamble it again. Then help me, please. Mom and Dad can't know. Dad's heart condition. This would kill him. That was the hook. He always used Dad's health or Mom's anxiety as a shield. I went to my safe and pulled out a supplementary card linked to one of my business accounts. It was an exclusive black card, no limit, but I could track every penny. This is for emergencies, I said, handing it to him. It's for rent, food, or paying off the loan sharks so you don't get your legs broken. It is not for lifestyle. It is not for parties. And you pay me back every cent. He grabbed it like it was a lifeline. I swear, Josh, thank you. You saved my life. I won't let you down. I'll treat this with respect. For the first month, he behaved. He paid off some debts. But then I started seeing the charges. $400 Hugo Boss. $200 Steakhouse. $150 floral arrangement. I called him. Caleb, what are these? Investment in my image, Josh, he argued. I need to look successful to get this promotion. Once I get the promotion, the salary bump covers everything. Trust the process. I let it slide. That was my mistake. I enabled him. I let him think that my silence was permission. Then came the wedding fund discussions. Elena wanted a destination wedding. Caleb promised her the world. My parents were bragging to all the neighbors about how successful Caleb was, how he was paying for everything himself. Meanwhile, I was sitting at family dinners listening to my mother make snide comments. Josh, are you still doing that computer repair thing? She'd ask over dry turkey. It's software development, Mom. Well, maybe Caleb can get you an interview in his IT department. You need benefits. You're almost 30. It's embarrassing to tell my friends my son is a freelancer. I looked at Caleb across the table. He was wearing a new watch. He winked at me, a conspiratorial wink. As if to say, let them talk, thanks for the watch, bro. He never defended me. Not once. He fed off the comparison. He needed me to be the loser so he could be the winner. But tonight was different. Tonight, he wasn't just letting me be the loser. He was actively kicking me to the curb to protect his lie. He was using my money to throw a party to impress a CEO, to celebrate a success that was funded by my bank account, and he had the audacity to tell me I wasn't successful enough to walk through the door. That lost/stolen button wasn't just about the money. It was 10 years of silence finally breaking. It was the college fund they claimed they didn't have for me but magically found for his MBA. It was the inheritance from grandma that went to the family business, which was really just paying off Caleb's first car. I sat in the cafe, watching the waiter pour another glass of wine for my brother. Enjoy it, Caleb, I whispered to the glass. It's the last drop you're getting from me. The cafe was quiet, save for the hum of the espresso machine and a jazz track playing softly in the background. It was a stark contrast to the scene playing out across the street. From my vantage point, I had a cinematic view of their table. It was right by the window, of course it was. Caleb would have demanded the best seat in the house to show off. I saw my father, looking uncomfortable in his stiff collar, laughing a beat too late at Mr. Sterling's jokes. I saw my mother, preening, touching her pearls, looking at Elena with that beaming pride she never directed at me. And there was Elena, glittering in a silver dress, looking at Caleb with adoration. Or was it adoration? I zoomed in with my phone camera. It sounds creepy, I know, but I needed to see the details. Elena's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She was looking around the room, checking who else was there. Elena was a shark in her own right. She had always been nice to me, overly nice, asking questions about my little projects. I suspected she knew I had money. She was hedging her bets. If Caleb crashed, she needed a backup plan. I unlocked my phone again to check the app. Transaction declined. L'Orangerie $450. That must have been the appetizers. I watched the table. A waiter had approached Caleb. He leaned down, whispering discreetly. That's how they do it in places like this. They don't make a scene. They whisper. Caleb waved his hand dismissively. He didn't even look at the waiter. He pointed to the card he had already given them to keep the tab open. He was saying, just run it again. The waiter hesitated, then bowed and retreated. Caleb turned back to Mr. Sterling, laughing loudly. He was telling a story. I knew his stories. He was probably recounting his trip to Bali last year, the one I paid for as a Christmas gift because he claimed he was burned out and suicidal. He turned it into a story about scouting international markets. My phone buzzed again. Transaction declined. L'Orangerie $450. I smiled. The system was working. The card wasn't just over the limit. It was dead. Flagged. The fraud department was probably trying to call Caleb's phone right now, but he had it face down on the table to look professional. Inside the restaurant, the dynamic shifted slightly. The waiter came back. This time, he brought the manager. The manager was a tall man with impeccable posture. He didn't whisper. He stood by Caleb's shoulder. Caleb looked annoyed. He turned, his face flushing slightly. He pulled his wallet out. He was fumbling. I knew what was in that wallet. A maxed-out Visa. A debit card with maybe $40 on it. And a gym membership card he never used. He handed them another card. I waited. 2 minutes later, the manager returned. He shook his head. I could see the color draining from Caleb's face even from across the street. He was sweating now. He looked at Mom. Mom looked confused. He looked at Elena. Elena's smile vanished instantly. She looked down at her plate. Mr. Sterling, the CEO, the VIP guest, was watching this unfold. He wasn't laughing anymore. He was a businessman. He knew what a declined card meant. It meant risk. It meant instability. Caleb stood up. He was gesturing wildly. He was probably saying, "It's a bank error. My fraud protection is too strict. Do you know who I am?" I took a bite of my croissant. It was dry, but watching Caleb squirm added a layer of flavor that Michelin star chefs couldn't replicate. Then my phone rang. It was Caleb. I let it ring. It rang again and again. I sent it to voicemail. He texted, "Pick up. Emergency. Bank issue." I replied, "Can't talk. Eating pizza in my apartment like you said." I saw him look at his phone, read the text, and slam it onto the table. My mother flinched. Mr. Sterling checked his watch. That was the death knell. When the client checks the watch, the deal is dead. But Caleb wasn't done. He was desperate. He whispered something to the manager, pointing towards the door. He was probably saying he needed to make a call to his accountant. He walked towards the exit. He was coming outside. This was it. The confrontation. I took the last sip of my coffee, stood up, and walked out of the cafe. I crossed the street, standing right under the streetlight where he would have to see me. The restaurant door burst open. Caleb stumbled out, loosening his tie. He looked frantic, his eyes darting up and down the street. He was looking for a signal, a miracle. Then he saw me. He froze. "Josh," he breathed. I leaned against a lamppost, hands in my pockets. "Hey, Caleb, dinner over already? I thought you were just getting to the Wagyu." He marched over to me, grabbing my arm. His grip was painful. You did something. The card isn't working." "I know," I said calmly. "I reported it stolen." "Stolen?" he hissed, looking back at the restaurant door to make sure no one was listening. "Are you insane? I'm in the middle of a $5,000 dinner. I have the CEO of Sterling Group in there. Unfreeze it. Now." "No." He blinked, as if he didn't understand the word. "What did you say?" I said no. "You told me this dinner was for successful family members only. You told me I was an embarrassment. You told me not to ruin it. So I removed myself from the equation. And since that card is in my name and the money is mine, I removed that too." You can't be successful with my money, Caleb. You petty little. He raised a fist, then stopped. He realized he couldn't hit me. He needed me. Josh, please. I'm begging you. Just unlock it for 1 hour. I'll pay you back. I swear on my life. Sterling is going to fire me if I can't pay. Mom and Dad are in there. Elena. Does Elena know you're broke? I asked. Shut up. Just fix it. Fix it yourself, successful man, I said, turning to walk away. Wait. He grabbed my shoulder again, spinning me around. You want to come in? Is that it? You want to sit at the table? Fine. Come in. I'll tell them I invited you. Just unfreeze the damn card. I looked at him. He was pathetic. A man in a $3,000 suit begging his hoodie-wearing brother for a bailout. Okay, I said. I'll come in. His shoulders slumped in relief. Thank God. Okay, come on. Just try not to say anything stupid. Unlock the app. I'll handle the payment inside. I lied. He didn't notice the lie. He was too panicked. Fine. Just come. He opened the door for me. The same door he had slammed in my face 40 minutes ago. I walked into l'orangerie. The warmth hit me. The smell of truffle oil and fear. I wasn't going in there to pay. I was going in there to end it. Walking back into that restaurant felt like walking onto a stage where everyone had forgotten their lines except me. The atmosphere at the table was frigid. My father was staring at a breadstick like it held the secrets of the universe. My mother was nervously twisting her napkin. Elena was texting furiously under the table, probably searching for annulment lawyers or how to tell if fiancé is broke. Mr. Sterling sat with his arms crossed, his face a mask of polite irritation. When Caleb walked back in with me trailing behind, the confusion in the room was palpable. Oh, look, Caleb announced, his voice too loud, cracking with fake cheerfulness. Look who I found nearby. My brother Joshua. I insisted he join us. Family is family, right? He pulled out a chair for me. It wasn't a gesture of kindness. He wanted me close so he could kick me under the table if I hesitated to pay. Joshua, my mother gasped. What are you doing here? Caleb said you were busy. My schedule cleared up, I said, sitting down. I didn't take off my denim jacket. I saw Mr. Sterling look at my hoodie, then at my face. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to place me. Mr. Sterling, Caleb said quickly, sweating profusely again. This is Joshua. He's in computers. Software, I corrected. Right, software. Caleb waved a hand. Anyway, about the bill. Slight banking error. Fraud protection is so sensitive these days, right? But Joshua here has it sorted. He kicked my shin under the table. Hard. Pay it, the kick said. The manager, Jean-Luc, approached the table. He wasn't smiling. He held a leather folder containing the bill. It wasn't just the appetizers anymore. They had opened 2 bottles of Chateau Margaux before the card declined. The bill, monsieur, Jean-Luc said, placing it in the center of the table. And we require immediate settlement. The police have been notified regarding the previous card. Police? My father choked. Caleb, why are the police involved? Standard procedure. Caleb squeaked. It's fine. Josh, handle it. He pushed the leather folder toward me. I opened it. The total was $5,400, including gratuity and the private room fee. I looked at the bill. I looked at Caleb. I looked at my parents. Mom, Dad, I said quietly, do you know whose card Caleb has been using for the last 6 months? Caleb's eyes went wide. Josh, don't. He told us it was a corporate expense account, my mother said, looking confused. From his promotion. There is no promotion, Mom, I said, and there is no corporate account. He's been using my credit card. My money. The money earned from the little computer thing you hate so much. Liar, Caleb shouted. He stood up, knocking his chair over. He's lying. He's jealous. He's trying to sabotage me. The restaurant went silent. Other diners turned to stare. Am I? I asked. I pulled my phone out and placed it on the table. I opened the banking history and spun it around so Mr. Sterling and my parents could see. Caleb Vance supplementary card. The screen read. Status. Reported stolen by primary account holder, Joshua Vance. My mother put a hand to her mouth. My father turned pale gray. Elena let out a sharp gasp. You're broke? She whispered to Caleb. You paid for my ring with his money? I was going to pay it back. Caleb screamed, his facade completely crumbling. He looked like a cornered animal. I just needed time. And if he pointed a shaking finger at me. Wasn't such a selfish, hoarding loser, none of this would matter. He has millions, Mom. He sits on it while I'm trying to build a legacy for this family. Millions, my father whispered. Caleb realized he had said too much. He had just outed my secret to justify his theft. I stood up. I don't just sit on it, Caleb. I invest it. I build things. Unlike you, who builds houses of cards. I turned to the manager. Jean-Luc, is it? Oui, monsieur. The manager looked terrified but intrigued. This man, I pointed to Caleb, invited everyone here. He ordered the wine. He ordered the food. I did not eat. I did not drink. And I did not authorize him to use my card. In fact, I am formally accusing him of credit card fraud. Joshua, my mother shrieked. He's your brother. Don't you dare. He banned me from the dinner, Mom, I said coldly. He said it was for successful people only. Well, successful people pay their own bills. I can't pay this. Caleb was sobbing now. Actual tears. I don't have $5,000. I'll go to jail. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Then the voice of authority spoke up. Wait a moment. It was Mr. Sterling. He hadn't moved during the entire shouting match. He stood up slowly, wiping his mouth with a linen napkin. He looked at Caleb with pure disgust. Then he turned his gaze to me. His expression softened. A smile of recognition spread across his face. Joshua Vance, Sterling said. I thought you looked familiar, but without the Zoom background, I wasn't sure. Caleb looked between us. You know him? Know him? Sterling laughed. You idiot. Your brother is the angel investor my board has been trying to woo for 6 months. He's the invisible hand behind Tech Horizon. The silence that followed was heavier than the oak door Caleb had slammed in my face. The revelation hung in the air like smoke. My parents looked at me as if I had just grown a second head. Caleb looked like he had been shot. You, Caleb stammered. You're the investor? The one Sterling wouldn't shut up about. I wanted to do due diligence on your company. Caleb, I said, my voice steady. I knew you worked there. I wanted to see if the culture was toxic. I didn't realize the toxicity was coming from my own bloodline. Mr. Sterling stepped around the table. He extended a hand to me. Joshua, it is a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Although, I apologize for the circumstances. I had no idea this fraud was your brother. I apologize for wasting your evening, Arthur, I said, shaking his hand. My family has a habit of overpromising and under-delivering. Arthur, Caleb whispered. You call him Arthur? We've exchanged emails, I said. Caleb turned to Sterling, desperation clawing at his throat. Mr. Sterling, wait. This is a misunderstanding. Family drama. I can explain. The deal. The marketing proposal. There is no deal, Caleb, Sterling said, his voice dropping to a terrifyingly professional register. You brought me here under false pretenses. You tried to pay for my dinner with a stolen credit card. You publicly humiliated your brother, who happens to be a man I respect greatly. You demonstrate a complete lack of ethics, financial responsibility, and judgment. Sterling buttoned his jacket. You're fired. Effective immediately. Don't come to the office tomorrow. Security will mail you your personal effects. Fired. Caleb collapsed into his chair. No, no, please. I have a mortgage. I have a wedding. He looked at Elena. Elena was already standing up. She picked up her purse. She looked at the ring on her finger, the ring bought with my money, and then at Caleb, who was sobbing into his hands. I think I'm going to go stay at my mother's tonight, Elena said softly. Elena! Baby, no. Caleb reached for her. She pulled away. Don't touch me. You lied about everything. You said you were a partner. You said you were rich. You're a thief, Caleb. She looked at me. Her eyes changed. They became soft, predatory. Joshua, I didn't know. If you ever need someone to talk to. Goodbye, Elena, I said. I didn't even look at her. She flushed red and hurried out of the restaurant. Now it was just the family. The ruins of the Vance dynasty. My mother stood up, her face streaked with tears. She walked over to me. For a second, I thought she was going to hug me. I thought she was going to apologize for years of neglect, for calling me a failure. She grabbed my arm. Fix this, she hissed. I stared at her. Excuse me? Fix this, she shrieked. Look at your brother. You've ruined him. He's fired. His fiancée is gone. He's humiliated. Pay the bill, tell Mr. Sterling it was a joke, and give Caleb a job at your company. Right now. I pulled my arm away from her grip. Are you hearing yourself? He stole from me. He treated me like garbage. And you want me to reward him? He's your brother, my father shouted, finally finding his voice. You have millions? And you let us worry about bills? You let Caleb struggle? You selfish, ungrateful. Ungrateful. I laughed. It was a dark, hollow sound. Ungrateful for what, Dad? For the tuition you didn't pay? For the support you didn't give? For the years of being compared to the golden child, who turned out to be fool's gold? I looked at Caleb. He was looking at me with pure hatred now. The begging was over. I hate you, Caleb whispered. I wish you had never been born. The feeling is mutual tonight, I said. I turned to the manager, Jean-Luc, and 2 police officers who had just walked through the door. Officers, I said. That man there, Caleb Vance, attempted to use a stolen credit card to pay a $5,000 bill. I am the owner of the card. I want to press charges. Joshua, no. My mother screamed. She threw herself between me and the police. Don't take him. Take me. Or just make Joshua pay. He has the money. The police officer looked at me. Sir, is this family? Biologically? Yes, I said. But legally? He's a thief. We'll need a statement, the officer said, walking over to Caleb. Stand up, son. Put your hands behind your back. Caleb was crying loudly now, a messy, ugly sound. Mom! Mom! Help me! My mother was wailing. My father was holding his chest, gasping. Maybe fake. Maybe real, I didn't care anymore. I looked at Mr. Sterling. I'll walk you out, Arthur. Please, Sterling said. I've lost my appetite. As we walked toward the door, passing my brother being handcuffed, I stopped. I leaned down to Caleb's ear. One last thing, I whispered. You were right. He looked up, snot running down his nose. What? You said this dinner was for successful family members only, I smiled. That's why I'm the one walking out the front door, and you're going out the back in a squad car. I stood up, buttoned my denim jacket, and walked out into the cold Chicago night. But this time I didn't feel cold at all. The sidewalk outside L'Orangerie was chaotic. Blue and red lights flashed against the brickwork, attracting a crowd. I watched as the officers guided Caleb into the back of a cruiser. He looked small. The arrogance, the bespoke suit, the Rolex, none of it mattered now. He was just a guy who tried to spend money he didn't earn. My parents were standing by the valet stand. My mother was screaming at my father to do something. But for the first time in his life, my father looked defeated. He knew there was nothing to do. The illusion was shattered. Arthur Sterling stood next to me, watching the scene. I need a drink, Sterling said. A real drink. Not that overpriced swill they were serving in there. I know a dive bar about 3 blocks down, I said. They have PBR on tap and the floor is sticky. Sterling laughed. Lead the way. We sat in a booth at the Rusty Anchor. It was quiet. Sterling loosened his tie. So, he said, you're the ghost investor. And that disaster was your brother. I apologize again, I said. I kept my identity hidden because I wanted to be judged on my code, not my connections. And I definitely didn't want Caleb knowing I was involved in his industry. Smart. Sterling nodded. Your brother, he wasn't a bad marketer, but he was hollow. He lacked substance. Now I know why. He spent his whole life pretending to be you, or at least pretending to have your level of competence. He spent his whole life trying to be what my parents wanted. I corrected. I just stopped trying. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. You are dead to us. How could you send your brother to jail? Bail him out now. Bring $50,000. We need a lawyer. I showed the text to Sterling. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm going to block the number, I said. And I did. Block contact. And the charges? I won't drop them, I said. If I drop them, he learns nothing. He thinks mom and dad can cry and I'll fold. He needs to face a judge. He needs to see a public defender. He needs to understand that actions have consequences. The next morning, the fallout was nuclear. My lawyer, Marcus, called me at 8 a.m. Josh, your parents are at the precinct. They're trying to mortgage their house to pay Caleb's bail. But there's a problem. The house is already leveraged. Caleb forged their signatures to take out a second mortgage last year. What? I sat up in bed. Yeah, the bank is getting involved. It's a mess. Fraud upon fraud. Your brother has been running a Ponzi scheme with your family's assets for years. I felt a pang of pity. Not for Caleb, but for my parents. They had bet everything on the wrong horse. They had sacrificed their relationship with the successful son to enable the criminal one. Marcus, I said, ensure the police have all the credit card statements. But tell the bank to hold off on foreclosing on my parents' house for 30 days. I'll buy the debt. You're going to save them? Marcus asked, sounding disappointed. No, I said. I'm going to buy the house. If they want to live there, they can pay me rent. If they don't want to pay rent to the disappointment son, they can move. Ruthless, Marcus said. I like it. That afternoon, I received an email from Elena. Subject line, closure. It was a long, rambling apology. She claimed she was a victim. She claimed she loved me like a brother. She asked if I wanted to get coffee to discuss how we can help Caleb. I deleted it without reading the second paragraph. 2 days later, I went to the office of Tech Horizon. I walked into the conference room where the board was waiting. Mr. Sterling was at the head of the table. Gentlemen, Sterling said, I'd like to introduce you to our new strategic partner, the man who is going to help us rebuild our marketing division from the ground up. I walked in. I was wearing a suit this time, not a flashy one, but a good one. Hi everyone, I said. I'm Joshua Vance. I looked out the window of the high-rise. I could see the city sprawled out below. Somewhere down there, in a holding cell or a bail bondsman's office, my brother was realizing that the free ride was over. Somewhere down there, my parents were realizing that the retirement fund they thought Caleb would provide was a myth. I had lost a family, yes, but looking around that boardroom, at the respect in their eyes, I realized I had finally found my place. 3 months. That's how long it takes for a dynasty built on lies to completely crumble into dust. If you've never watched a house of cards fall in slow motion, let me tell you, it is both terrifying and strangely hypnotic. After the night at L'Orangerie, the silence from my family was deafening. But it wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence of a submarine crew realizing they are taking on water and the hatches are jammed. I didn't go back to my apartment to hide. I went to work. The Monday following the arrest, I formally signed the partnership papers with Arthur Sterling. We didn't do it in a stuffy boardroom. We did it at a small diner on the south side of Chicago, over black coffee and scrambled eggs. You know, Sterling said, signing the last page of the contract that would merge my proprietary algorithms with his infrastructure. Your brother called my office 18 times yesterday. I paused, my coffee cup halfway to my mouth. From jail? From a bail bondsman's office, Sterling corrected. Apparently, your parents leveraged their car titles to get him out. He left voicemails for my secretary claiming that I had made a grave error and that he was preparing a lawsuit for wrongful termination. I sighed. He doesn't know when to stop, does he? No, Sterling said, looking me dead in the eye. People like Caleb never stop until they hit a wall that doesn't move. You have to be that wall, Joshua. I took that advice to heart, because 2 days later, the wall came in the form of a legal summons. Caleb wasn't just suing Sterling, he was suing me. The lawsuit was a masterpiece of delusion. It claimed promissory estoppel, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and my personal favorite, breach of verbal contract. He claimed that my years of financial support constituted a verbal contract of lifetime maintenance, and by cutting him off, I had caused him irreparable lifestyle damage. I sat in the conference room of Marcus's law firm, reading the document. Is this a joke? I asked. Marcus, my lawyer and oldest friend, didn't smile. He adjusted his glasses. In the eyes of the law, it's frivolous, but in the eyes of a narcissist, it's his reality. He believes he is entitled to your money because he exists. He wants a settlement, Josh. He thinks you'll pay him $50,000 just to make him go away. I'm not paying him a dime, I said. Good. Marcus opened a thick file. Because we aren't just going to get this dismissed. We are going to countersue. I finished the forensic accounting on your parents' finances. Marcus slid a spreadsheet across the polished mahogany table. It was a sea of red ink. Your brother didn't just use your credit card, Marcus explained, his finger tracing a line of transactions. He forged your father's signature on a home equity line of credit 3 years ago. That renovation they did on the kitchen? That wasn't Caleb's bonus. That was the bank's money, secured against your parents' house. He's been paying the interest with other credit cards to keep the bank quiet. But now that the cards are frozen, the house? I realized, a cold knot forming in my stomach. They're going to lose the house. Foreclosure proceedings start next Tuesday, Marcus confirmed. I leaned back in my chair. My childhood home. The place where I was told I wasn't good enough. The place where Caleb's trophies lined the mantelpiece while my coding awards were shoved in a drawer. Let them lose it, a voice in my head said. They made their bed. But then I thought about my father. He was weak, yes. He was an enabler. But he was old, and his heart condition wasn't entirely fake. If they got kicked out onto the street, the stress would likely kill him. And as much as I hated what they had become, I didn't want a funeral on my conscience. Buy the debt, I said to Marcus. Marcus looked at me, exasperated. Josh, we talked about this. No bailouts. It's not a bailout, I said, my voice hardening. It's a takeover. Buy the note from the bank. I want to be the lien holder. I want to own the deed. Marcus smiled, a slow, shark-like grin. Now that I can do. The confrontation happened a week later. I drove to my parents' house. I wasn't in my Honda this time. I was driving my new company car, a sleek, charcoal gray Audi RS7. It wasn't flashy like a yellow Lamborghini, but it whispered power. I pulled into the driveway. Caleb's Porsche was gone, repossessed the day after he was fired. In its place sat my dad's rusting sedan. I walked up the path. The grass was overgrown. The golden child wasn't around to pay the landscapers anymore. I knocked. My mother answered. She looked 10 years older than she had at the restaurant. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes puffy. When she saw me, her expression shifted from hope to anger. You, she spat. You have the nerve to show up here? After what you did to your brother. Hello, Mom, I said, stepping past her into the hallway. Is Caleb here? He's in his room, she said, following me, her voice rising to a shriek. He's depressed. He can't eat. He can't sleep. Because of you. You destroyed his reputation. He destroyed his own reputation when he stole $5,000 from me and tried to defraud a CEO, I said calmly. I walked into the kitchen. My father was sitting at the table, staring at a pile of envelopes. All of them had the red stamps of final notice. Joshua, my father said. He didn't sound angry. He sounded defeated. Dad? I nodded. I placed a leather portfolio on the table. What is this? My mother asked, hovering over the table. Is it money? Did you finally come to your senses and bring the check for Caleb's lawyer? It's a lease agreement, I said. My mother blinked. What? The bank was going to foreclose on this house on Tuesday, I explained. Caleb stopped paying the fraudulent loan he took out in Dad's name. My father looked up sharply. Loan? What loan? The kitchen renovation, Dad. The trip to Bali. The Porsche lease down payment. It was all funded by equity he stole from this house. I watched the realization hit my father. He looked at the notices on the table. He picked one up, his hands shaking. Notice of default. He told me he paid for the kitchen, my father whispered. He said it was a gift. He lied, I said. And now the bank wants the house back. But they aren't going to get it. Because I bought the debt. I tapped the portfolio. I own this house now. The deed is in my name. My mother's face went purple. You stole our house? I saved your house, I corrected sharply. I paid off the bank. You still have a roof over your head because of me. But things are going to change. If you want to stay here, you will sign this lease. I will never pay rent to my own son, my mother screamed. This is my house. It hasn't been your house for 3 years, Mom. It's been the bank's house. Now it's mine. The rent is set at fair market value. It covers the property taxes and the interest. If you don't sign, I will proceed with the eviction process, and you can move into an apartment. It's your choice. Just then, Caleb walked into the kitchen. He looked terrible. He was wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. He hadn't shaved in days. But the moment he saw me, that familiar arrogance tried to flare up. Get out of my house, Caleb snarled. It's not your house, I said, not even turning to face him fully. And actually, part of the lease agreement involves you. I flipped the contract open to the last page. Clause 14, I read. Occupancy is limited to Robert and Linda Vance. No other permanent residents are permitted without written consent from the landlord. Caleb's eyes widened. You're kicking me out? You're 34 years old, Caleb. You're unemployed. You're facing criminal charges. And you're toxic. You don't get to live here anymore. You have 30 days to find a place. If you're still here on the 1st of the month, I void the lease and evict everyone. Mom! Caleb turned to her, grabbing her arm. Don't let him do this. He's a monster. My mother looked at me, eyes blazing with hate. If Caleb goes, we go. Okay, I said, reaching for the folder. Then start packing. I'll have the sheriff here on Monday. I bluffed. I prayed I wouldn't have to do it. My father slammed his hand on the table. Enough. The room went silent. My father stood up. He was shaking, but he was standing straight. Robert, my mother whispered. He's right, my father said, his voice cracking. Look at the papers, Linda. Look at them. Caleb stole the equity. Caleb lied about the job. Caleb lied about the money. Joshua is the only reason we aren't on the street next week. Dad, don't listen to him, Caleb pleaded. My father turned to Caleb. You looked me in the eye and told me you paid for that kitchen with your bonus. You let me brag about you. You made me a fool. I did it for us, Caleb yelled. To look good. To be the family you wanted. You did it for yourself, my father said. He picked up the pen. He looked at me. 30 days. 30 days for him to move out, I said. You and Mom can stay as long as you pay the rent. My father signed the paper. Robert. No. My mother tried to grab the pen, but he pushed her hand away. Sign it, Linda, he said quietly, or we're homeless. My mother wept as she signed. She didn't look at me. She just cried for her precious, broken illusion. Caleb stood there, stripped of his last defense. Where am I supposed to go? I hear they're hiring at the Amazon warehouse, I said, picking up my portfolio. It's hard work. You might hate it, but it pays honest money. I walked out of the house. I didn't look back. I got into my Audi, turned on the heated seats, and drove away. I thought I would feel guilty. I thought I would feel sad. Instead, I felt lighter than air. The next 2 months were a blur of productivity. With the family drama compartmentalized, I focused entirely on Tech Horizon. We launched the new platform in late spring. It was a massive success. My code, combined with Sterling's infrastructure, revolutionized how the company handled data logistics. The stock price jumped 15% in the first week. I was no longer the ghost. I was the Chief Technology Officer, CTO. I had an office with a view of Lake Michigan. I had a team of 50 developers reporting to me. But success is lonely if you don't have anyone to share it with. And I knew exactly who I wanted on my team. Sarah. Sarah was my second cousin. She was the only person in the extended family who sent me a card on my birthday. She was the only one who didn't look at me with pity at Thanksgiving. She was a brilliant organizer, but she was stuck working as a receptionist at a dental office because she couldn't afford to finish her degree. I called her on a Tuesday. Hey Josh, she answered, whispering. I can't really talk, my boss is watching. Quit, I said. What? Quit your job, Sarah. Come down to the Tech Horizon building. 40th floor. Josh, are you okay? I heard about everything. Aunt Linda is saying terrible things about you on Facebook. I know. I laughed. I blocked her. Just come downtown. I'm offering you a job. Executive assistant to the CTO. Starting salary is double what you're making now, plus full benefits and tuition reimbursement if you want to finish school. There was a long silence on the other end. Are you serious? Dead serious. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't trying to use me. Someone who actually likes me. I'll be there in an hour, she said. When Sarah walked into my office, her jaw dropped. She looked at the glass walls, the high-tech equipment, the view. You built this? She asked. I wrote the code that paid for it. I smiled. Welcome to the team, Sarah. Having her there changed everything. It was proof that family isn't just about blood obligation. It's about loyalty. We worked hard. We laughed. We ordered pizza late at night while debugging code. Real pizza, not the scraps my brother would toss me. Speaking of Caleb, the legal system moves slow, but it grinds fine. His lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice within weeks. Marcus terrified Caleb's lawyer so badly with the threat of sanctions that they dropped the case almost immediately. The criminal charges for credit card fraud, however, stuck. Because it was a first offense, and because I didn't push for maximum prison time, a small mercy I granted for my father's sake, Caleb took a plea deal. 3 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and full restitution of the $5,000 plus legal fees. He couldn't work in finance or marketing anymore. His record was flagged. The last I heard from Sarah, who still talked to my mother occasionally, Caleb was working night shifts at a logistics center, packing boxes. He was living in a studio apartment above a garage in the suburbs. Elena had blocked him on everything and was reportedly dating a dermatologist. My parents were still in the house. The rent check arrived on the first of every month, signed by my father. It was always on time. We didn't talk. I didn't go over for Sunday dinner. Some people told me I was cold. They said, "You have millions, why make your parents pay rent?" But they didn't understand. The rent wasn't about the money. The rent was the boundary. It was the daily reminder that the dynamic had shifted. It was the only way to force them to respect the transaction, because they never respected the relationship. I was finally free. 6 months after the incident at Lorangerie, I found myself driving down Lake Shore Drive. The sky was that perfect, crisp blue that you only get in Chicago in the fall. The leaves were turning gold and crimson along the park. I wasn't driving the Audi today. I was driving my dream car. It wasn't a Rolls-Royce or a Lamborghini. It was a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1, fully restored in raven black. I had spent the last 3 months working on it in my spare time, getting grease under my fingernails, tuning the engine until it purred like a jungle cat. It was a car that required attention. It required care. You couldn't just fake it with this car. If you didn't treat it right, it wouldn't run. Kind of like a relationship. I pulled over near the planetarium, looking back at the skyline. The city looked different to me now. It used to look like a fortress I was trying to break into. Now it looked like a playground. I turned off the engine and sat in the silence, listening to the wind off the lake. I thought about Caleb. I wondered if he was angry right now. Probably. People like Caleb are addicted to their own victimhood. In his mind, I'm the villain who stole his birthright. He probably tells his co-workers at the warehouse that his billionaire brother screwed him over. He probably leaves out the part about the theft, the lies, the arrogance. But that's okay. I don't need to control his narrative anymore. I only need to control mine. For 30 years, I chased a ghost. I chased the approval of two people who were incapable of seeing me. I thought if I made enough money, they would love me. I thought if I fixed enough of their problems, they would value me. But you can't buy respect. And you definitely can't buy love. I looked at my phone. A text from Sarah. Meeting with the new interns in 20. Don't forget coffee. I smiled. That was real. That was a connection based on mutual respect and shared goals. I also had a text from Arthur Sterling. Board loved the Q3 projections. You're a wizard. Josh. Dinner tonight? My treat. No French food, I promise. I laughed out loud in the empty car. I realized then that I was rich. Not because of the number in my bank account, though let's be honest, that helps alleviate a lot of stress. I was rich because I had trimmed the dead weight. I had cut off the gangrenous limb to save the body. I thought about the young man I was 6 months ago, standing outside that restaurant in the cold, feeling small, feeling ashamed because my brother slammed a door in my face. I wanted to go back and hug that guy. I wanted to tell him, it's okay. That door closing is the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes, when people shut you out, they aren't locking you out of their success. They are locking themselves in with their own failures. Caleb locked himself in that restaurant with his lies. I was the one who was free outside. I started the Mustang. The engine roared to life. A deep, throaty rumble that vibrated through the steering wheel. I put the car in gear and pulled back onto the road. I wasn't heading back to my old apartment. I wasn't heading to my parents' house to beg for scraps of affection. I was heading forward. As I drove, I passed the exit for Lorangerie. I didn't even glance at it. It was just a building, a backdrop for a scene in a movie that was already over. My life was just beginning. And let me tell you, the view from the driver's seat is spectacular. We need to talk about what happened here. This story isn't just about credit cards, fraud, or sweet revenge. It's about boundaries and self-worth. Many of you listening to this might be the Joshua of your family. Maybe you're the one who always fixes things, the one who lends money that never gets paid back, or the one who is constantly compared to a sibling. You might think that if you just give a little more, sacrifice a little more, or tolerate a little more disrespect, they will finally love you the way you deserve. I learned the hard way that you cannot love someone into respecting you. My brother Caleb didn't steal from me just because he needed money. He stole from me because he didn't respect me. He saw me as a resource, not a person. And by allowing it for so long, I taught him that it was okay to treat me that way. The moment I pressed report stolen on that app, I wasn't just freezing a card. I was freezing the toxicity. I was declaring that access to me, to my energy, my time, and my resources is a privilege, not a right. Even for family. Especially for family. So here's my question for you today. Is there a door in your life that needs to be slammed shut? Is there someone who is using your supplementary card? Whether that's your money, your emotional energy, or your kindness, without paying the bill of respect? If this story resonated with you, if you felt that moment of victory when the card was declined, do me a favor. Leave a comment below with the word good. Type good to let me know that you believe in setting boundaries. Type good if you promise to stop setting yourself on fire to keep ungrateful people warm. Your value isn't determined by a title, a suit, or what your parents think of you. It's determined by what you tolerate. Raise your standards and watch your life change. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.